I might as well start. Yesterday I was working on these slides, and sometimes you're working and you actually look at what you're doing and say, why am I doing this? What am I doing? How did I end up doing this? And what I'm doing is I've become kind of obsessed with where things come from, and it's not clear how this came, but it occurred to me yesterday that maybe it's because I've spent most of my life confused about where I come from, and have spent a lot of time trying to explain it to people. So I decided to do the next best thing and tackle it for everyone. And I have family in 3 countries. I have them in France and in Italy and in California, which is probably should be a country. And for 8 years, probably a lot of you experienced this when you traveled to Europe. Well, there was this period of 8 years when you had to apologize for living in the U.S. And as of Tuesday, I get to apologize to my California family for living in Massachusetts. Now, what I do in Massachusetts is I work at the MIT Media Lab, as Mike said, and the Media Lab is a great place of innovation. It's a place where we try to eke out the best technologies to solve the world's problems, and almost always that involves computers. So after years and years of doing this, I've just looked at my computer and said, well, where does this come from? And it turned out that I stumbled on what I think now is probably one of the greatest achievements of humankind, which is the supply chain inside computer chips. Well, this was a drawing. I was an architect originally, so I spent a couple of months researching this question and drafting out this map of every material, something like 24 materials at least, 50 countries probably. It's all very hard to figure out, but these materials are jetting around the globe, and what's amazing about this supply chain is that it probably touches nearly every person on Earth. So while nobody is really in charge of it, it's really a tremendous achievement. So I'm at the Media Lab, so I partnered up with 2 brilliant developers, Matt Hockenberry and David Zwarg, and they allowed me to take that big drawing and turn it into a computerized drawing, which means we could add all sorts of information, which means you can travel through that map and look up all those materials. And thanks to some of the resources that are becoming available nowadays, the mapping, the sort of the locations of mines, more and more about routes and transportation, we're able to find out where all those materials come from, or at least where it's likely that they originated. And you can do a lot more now when you start to involve the computer in a storytelling process of even great complexity. This is an island in Indonesia where 80 to 90% of all the tin in the world is mined. Somebody had posted a video of what those mines look like, and we were able to incorporate that into our story. Then, of course, there's Google Earth. So some of these mines are so gigantic that you don't need much data gathering to find them. You can just zoom in and pan around. This is going to be the largest copper mine in the world. It dwarfs the city that houses the workers that are there. You can pan around, even see the ponds where all the water gets treated or not. So we did this for one map. And the great thing about computers is if you do it for one person or one story, you can do it for any number of stories. And we went out looking for people who wanted to tell stories. Sorry. Went talking to caterers. Caterers are using it to map out their food, their farms, to promote their suppliers, and they're printing these menus to sell things to people. Went to talk to hoteliers. This woman offsets all the carbon of all her guests that travel to her hotel, and she uses this map on her website to indicate the calculations that she's undertaken, because you can calculate all this carbon footprint once you've mapped out a supply chain. This is one that I have to let you hear, because it was kind of touching for someone like me.
Most people who work at the brewery work locally, well, most of them were born locally, therefore protection of this ground and the resource that we have and is in everybody's heads. It's just an underpinning thing that we all think is the right thing to do.
It'd be nice to have a home town. This woman works in the Highlands of Scotland where there's a lot of breweries, but there are no bottling plants. And so she used this to argue for building the first bottling plant in the Highlands, reducing all the shipping that all of those companies are having to do to a centralized place and creating jobs in her hometown. So we had no idea there was such passion, and this really motivated us to make this a completely open system where anybody can go. I figure there must be people out there who know a lot more about where things come from than we do, and in fact there are. So people go there and they map IKEA products, they map electric cars, they map food, they make very small maps of very locally specific cultural resources, and they use them to share things. They use them to calculate trips that they've taken or trips that they have avoided taking. This person mapped a bomb. As far as I can tell, it has a very high carbon footprint. So that's it. We're free and open. We have a community of developers that has really motivated us to bring more of this unknown information into the public, and I'd be happy to demo our system in the lounge right away. Thank you.